toxicity that I think some black men have to grapple with, and that is we tend to be tied to our desire to improve our image as black men, our desire to improve and grow the number of black families. We're tied to improving the black community as well as the image of black men in the popular imagination. And in doing so, we sacrifice in ways that never gets acknowledged. We stay in merciless, loving, loveless relationships for generations sometimes, just to prove a point. You know how many men I've talked to who've stayed in horrible marriages just for their kids? And one of the things I've tried to share with a couple brothers, because I know what it is. I've been married for nearly a decade. I understand the amount of dedication and sacrifice that goes into staying in long relationships, even when you don't feel like you get anything out of it, especially if you have kids. I get it. But as I was talking to this good brother of mine, I told him, I asked him why he didn't leave. And he said, well, I'm staying for my kids. And he's got one child left that's grown or growing. She's about to finish her senior year of high school. And he's hoping that he can now live his life now that she's, about to move out. But the thing about it is, one, I want brothers to know your liberation from toxicity starts when you decide it should. You don't have to wait for a life occurrence. You can liberate yourself at any point. Two, if you're staying in a toxic relationship for the benefit of kids, just keep in mind, it can benefit them to see two people together. Maybe. Statistically, there's some grounding for, of course, I just did this in my previous show, showing the presence of fathers in households, how it impacts kids, especially boys, but also girls. But here's the thing. You can also teach a child how to accept toxic treatment. You can also teach a child that what they're supposed to do as an adult, a responsible adult, is be abused, emotionally, psychologically, or physically. You can teach them the wrong lesson by staying too long, and sometimes leaving can be a lesson in teaching a child when the fuck to leave. That everybody has a line. And if you're dealing with someone who is unwilling to relent on abusive treatment, there's a lesson to be learned about knowing when to walk away. But this particular toxicity that I'm talking about with black men has a name in black male studies. It's called John Henryism. Right? Of course, we know about the legend of John Henry, steel driving man who outperformed the locomotive to his death. Right? And that's the principal idea behind John Henryism. Now, the father in the story I just read might be a John Henry in the sense that he worked so much so that his son even talked about, him being, not present. It's interesting. I had a debate with a woman on my page when I posted the story where she decided to completely reframe the story as the husband's fault because he was neglectful. And she posted on her page like that from mine. I had to check her. So no, you're not going to reframe the story and avoid accountability for women, which is something they do a lot. So no. He was upset. The guy writing this was upset that his father wasn't there much, but his father was working and providing for a family and a woman that didn't have to work. So that's one. It wasn't neglect for the sake of being neglectful. He was taking care of a family. But two, you're not going to sidestep her abusive behavior because it's inconvenient as a woman to talk about that. And I challenge women who don't hold each other accountable. So that's, first of all, we got to get that bullshit out the way. But that said, these kind of stories, the John Henryism of the father might be not only in his work ethic, but his desire to stay in a horrible situation for the benefit of the kids. And we can begin to question whether or not it actually benefits them, especially since black men tend to be the best fathers in terms of time spent with children, interaction, so on and so forth, even when not living under the same roof. Leaving a horrible situation does not have to dismantle the family, and it does not have to be a negative lesson to children. It can actually be a positive depending on how it's done. But the problem is a lot of it depends on how it's done. If it's not done right, you can end up in a situation that becomes wholly toxic. So I'm going to share a couple of things. I didn't intend on it or else I would have had it primed on the screen. But I can tell you a couple of little stories here and there that play out in how we are treated. Bear with me for a second. Okay, so we got that right. It's one thing I hate about TikTok, though. You can't really, doesn't show me how to rewind. Anyway, yeah, there's a couple videos I think I'll show, so I apologize, but here's a quick video that I was sent this morning that can show you what kind of drama men have to deal with, even when they have custody of their kids. So I'm not sidestepping that it can happen, but you can still be a responsible father. Pay it up.
No, get the fuck back. The world needs to know. You're doing too much, man. The world needs to know that you ain't shit. Your daddy, look, little boy. Dude. Pay attention because I'm gonna record so the whole world can know. And all your TikTok fans, whatever, bullshit, social media you be on. Get the fuck back, man. Come on. No, look, little boy. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now. No, you ain't shit. You ain't shit. You learn how to take your. You ain't shit. To learn how to take care of your kids and learn how to. No, with your little broke ass. Stingy little ass just because you got custody of your damn kids. Don't touch my door, bitch. Yeah, your daddy ain't shit. I'm gonna let the whole TikTok freaking know.
That's real. A lot of men are dealing with that kind of drama. But here's the question. If he was dealing with that while living under the same roof, how much worse would he be? How much worse would it be for the kid? And he has to deal with that just picking his child up. Imagine having to live with that in an ongoing manner. Again, there's a time to leave. And at the very least, as bad as that situation was, he can actually go spend time with his son. He can actually go have a conversation in private with his son and work through what just happened. And this is the kind of stuff we gotta grow more accustomed to doing. We gotta know when to walk away. Because the toxicity is not just the person, it's not just the situation. Sometimes it's our addiction to actually wanting to improve things. That can actually become a hindrance in knowing when to leave a situation that's too far gone. And many of us may have actually experienced being tricked into a situation that isn't in our benefit.